Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great week. It's the second day after holiday, so it can be hard, but we're in it together. Um, Everybody knows that I'm very passionate about music, obviously, but something else I'm really passionate about is nutrition and health. And I think it all ties together because without a healthy mind and a healthy body, I'm not able to do all the things that I love. And when I was around 18 years old, I started having a lot of health issues, specifically. Hi, hola. And one of the ways I was able to really heal myself was through diet. And so I want to invite somebody who helped me through that process. She's a registered dietitian. Her name is Anna, and here she is.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. It's good to see you and be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. How has the post-pandemic world been treating you? I always like to ask people, like, overall, like, was the pandemic a not a good experience, but do you feel like you learned a lot from it? Like you took a lot of positive things from it?
Yeah, I think that I definitely grew a lot and learned a lot about myself during that time. I mean, it was a struggle for everybody, but me personally, I feel like it really helped put into perspective like what's important in life, and um, it helped me in terms of my career because that's when I went fully virtual and started working with patients online. So I feel like it really helped in that sense. And a lot of the patients that I work with feel the same way, that you know, the way that we work is completely changing. And, that opens up so many doors to other people to be home more often and, to be more flexible in our lives. So I think overall it was, scary and a lot of bad things came out of it, but some good things too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Um, And before we get started, I'd love to do a little challenge where I ask you a certain amount of questions in a minute and 15 seconds.
Oh boy.
And you just answer as fast as possible so that people can get to know you.
Perfect. Let's go.
Okay. What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Drink water.
How do you like your coffee?
Espresso with a little bit of almond milk.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're alone?
I love to dance and listen to music
It's amazing.
by
Okay.
myself.
Do you think with your head more or your heart more?
I think a little bit of both, and they both clash, but then the heart usually wins.
Are you a city person or a nature person?
That's really hard. I feel like I'm both. I need both in my life.
Introvert or extrovert?
More of an introvert.
Your love language.
Oh my God. Food? Probably.
A place you want to vacation that you've never been.
Colombia.
Your favorite food to order in.
Sushi.
An experience that you'll never forget.
Oh my God. There's so many good ones. Probably hiking in Cinque Terre, hiking to all the different little islands in South Italy.
Okay, one more. Your ideal day off.
Oh my God. Okay. Coffee in the morning, a hike in the afternoon, and then like going to a concert at night.
Okay. No, you did it in time.
Perfect.
That sounds like a good
That
day.
wasn't hard.
Yeah, I feel like people's favorite food to order in is like always some sort of Asian food. It's just like
It's just
everybody's
so
go-to.
good.
I know.
It's so good and it's so hard to make by yourself. I mean, I applaud anybody who can make Asian food at home. I feel like it's really hard. You need so many ingredients, especially sushi.
Yeah,
So that's my fave
yeah,
for
I
sure.
can never make sushi.
Yeah.
It would not look like sushi if I tried to make it.
It's like it takes all day and then you eat it so fast, so it's
I
annoying.
know. Um, So I'd love to hear because I know you as like a client, but a little bit about like your childhood or just like what inspired you to get into nutrition in the first place.
Yeah, so I think all dietitians kind of have their own personal relationship with food or a struggle that they went through that kind of like, put them into the mindset of wanting to learn more and become a dietitian to help other people. I first learned about nutrition and being a dietitian as a career when I was like 15 years old. My grandpa was sick in the hospital, and he had a dietitian at the time who was in charge of his like tube feedings, and that's when I first learned that you could do that as a career. And I think that I always loved food. Obviously, growing up, I grew up in a Greek household. My parents are both Greek, and in our culture, like food is the center of everything, right? It's the center of like family gatherings and our traditions and our holidays. And, we love food. We love to cook it. We love to be together, making it, eating. So food played like just a special role in my life there. And then on top of that, growing up in the US, there's so much in the media, in magazines that we were reading, on TV. There's just so many mixed messages that were being fed about health and wellness, and what we should look like as a woman, and what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating. And there were just a lot of like mixed messages, and growing up in that is hard for anybody, especially I feel like as a teenager, when you're going, you're growing. It's a time that you're changing, you're growing into your adult body. It's a really confusing time for everybody. So me personally, I struggled with understanding that change and growing into an adult, and weight gain and things like that, and acne and all that stuff that comes with growing into an adult.
Mhm.
And nobody really told me. I didn't really have somebody to tell me that it's okay and that it's natural, and like you're supposed to have thighs, and you're supposed to, grow a chest when you're becoming a woman. And like, so I think that I started kind of doing my own, you know, research into health and wellness there. And I think one of the main things that interested me was, I grew up here in the States, but every summer I would go to Greece for vacation. And I was noticing that in Greece, people were eating really differently than I did back at home. Um, you know, I grew up with like, Burger King, like McDonald's, like a lot of fast food around, and, going out with your friends and getting, like just a bunch of, quick fast foods, things like that. Where in Greece, they were all, there weren't that many processed foods, and nobody was complaining about their weight or their health. Everybody was just eating and enjoying their food and living life. So that really interested me and kind of got me started. And then once I started learning about nutrition and how, um, how it can not only, help somebody manage their weight or, prevent acne or things like that. I also started learning about how it can manage certain health conditions, and I also struggled with some GI conditions like IBS and GERD, which run in my family. So I kind of started to work on that as well throughout college, and then wanted to help others too.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think a lot of people like their passion stems from something that like helped them, and then it's like, oh, I see how much this helped me, so I'm like really want to see how it could help other people, because I know that's like kind of how it is for me with music. um and I think I travel a lot too, and I noticed that too. It's so interesting in other countries, food is just isn't the only topic of conversation around food is just like, when are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? And how good is it going to be? Not like,
Right,
what kind of diet are you on? And like, I
right.
understand people have different restrictions. Like, I have a lot of restrictions, but it's kind of like, very dividing in our culture. It's just like another way I feel like Americans are more individualistic, and it's not like a community. And when you grow up seeing food as weight, rather than nutrition and its nutritional value. Like it's very confusing. And I think you also grow up thinking like that if you have issues with food or that's a problem. And some people have these like food issues where they don't eat enough or they eat too much, and then everyone else is normal. And something else that I like realized when I became a teenager, a young adult, was just like everybody or most people have issues with food. Like most people don't know what to eat or how much to eat or eat too little or eat too much. And I think it's because of this, lack of education on nutrition. And I don't know what it's like in other countries. But at least for me, like I knew nothing about it until I started having these health issues and, these things that I had to deal with. And I feel like it would be great if we could have these conversations before it gets to that
Yeah. Yeah,
point.
definitely. I mean, something I always tell my patients is it's not your fault. Like, it's everybody who struggles with their relationship with food or is confused about nutrition, it's not your fault. Like, the fitness and dieting industry in America is like a billion dollar, multi-billion dollar industry. They're making money off of that. And they're making money off of you going on their fad diet and failing and then doing it again because they want you to fail so you can keep doing it and you can keep buying their products and you can keep, putting money into that system. So it's not your fault because it's everywhere. And like the media just, portrays all these different ideas about what we should be eating and what you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you need to add this, you need to add that. It's all like a money making system. So, when you're constantly feeding people this and we're not thinking about the science, of course it's confusing and it's unfortunate, but that's, why it's so important to always look back to the science and work with a dietitian if you need help.
Yeah, that's what I tell my friends too, because, if they're having, I mean, a lot of people now have issues with their gut or migraines or whatever. And
Hmm.
like, I always say, like, stop looking online, like, stop reading books, like, just go see a dietitian, go see a professional, because also everybody's so different and everybody needs different things. And the more you go look to what other people are doing for advice, the further you get from like your own body and your own relationship with your own body. And that's what's great about a dietitian. It's like they're going to help you connect to yourself, not connect to like this ideal, well, at least a good one, not this like ideal
Yeah.
idea of what health should be. What is
Yeah.
your like definition of healthy? Do you have
Okay.
one?
So when you think of like wellness or health, what does that really mean? I think that it's so multi-dimensional. There's really no like one thing that makes somebody healthy. But when we're looking at like the pillars of health, we're looking at like your physical health, of course, but also your mental health. We're looking at your like economical health. We're looking at your spiritual health. Like if you feel like you belong in the world and like if you have purpose in your life, right? Like there's so many different aspects of it. So I really like to take that holistic approach and look at all the different dimensions of somebody's health because a lot of the times one thing will affect the other. For example, like if your mental health is lacking and needs support, that's definitely going to play a role on your, it's going to put a strain on your physical health. A lot of, since we mentioned IBS, a lot of IBS symptoms and GI symptoms actually are related to stress and anxiety, for example, because your brain is directly linked to your gut through a set of neurons. So it's really interesting. They're all kind of interconnected. So, when I talk to somebody about what it means to be healthy, I mean, from a science perspective, of course, we want to take a look at your blood work, right? See what your cholesterol looks like, see what your blood sugar looks like. Do you have enough vitamin D? And, are you getting enough iron? And like, if all of your blood work, if all your labs look great and you're doing well there, that's a sign of good physical health. If, you're feeling well mentally, right? It's a good sign of mental health. So, I think it really, requires a little bit of um, all of those
Yeah.
pillars.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it's like good to see how they're all connected, because I think, and obviously, like, social media can be very damaging in this
Yeah.
sense, and I'm sure it might be frustrating as somebody who is a dietitian to see, like, people giving unsolicited
Oh,
advice
yeah.
all the time. Um, but I think there's a lot of these, like, I see a lot of these posts on Instagram that's like basically like my morning routine, how to be healthy. And it's like I wake up and then I drink my coffee and then I go for a 10-mile walk and then I come home and then I go to the gym and I eat all fruits and vegetables and no bad things and I'm super
Mhm.
healthy. And it's like if you're doing that because you want to do it and because that's what makes you feel good and because like it's your way of taking care of yourself, it's healthy. But if you're doing it because you feel like you have to or because you want to present an image of yourself that other people will think is good or cool, that is not necessarily healthy. And it's like everything goes together. And I think we hear a lot of the time, like, okay, you need to get enough sleep, you need to get enough steps, you need to eat like this much protein and this, but it's all kind of like puzzle pieces that the real work is like fitting everything together in a way that works for you as an individual. You know what I mean?
Exactly, that's, like, the key word there is, like, what's gonna work for you as an individual. So what's gonna work for you is not gonna work for me, it's not gonna work for your mom, like, everybody has completely different needs and completely different goals as well. So it's super important to first, like, understand that and not compare yourself to anybody else. Social media is the worst, honestly. I mean, it's such a great tool, like, to get the word out, make connections, and spread positivity as well, but at the same time, like, it's also really terrible for mental health for a lot of reasons. All of those, like, what I eat in the day posts or, like, what you said, like, what I do in a day for it, like, those are so unrealistic for a lot of people. And the work that I do is really like, I just work to meet the client where they're at. So, like, if you have never cooked a day in your life, I'm not going to tell you to start eating vegetables with every meal because maybe you don't know how to prepare them. Maybe you don't have access to, an oven or whatever it is, right? Everybody's completely different. I have some patients who are like working in New York City. They're running around all day and they, don't have time, but they don't want to spend that 1 hour to like meal prep on Sunday. They'd rather spend it with their family. Like, so there's so many different approaches that one should take, in order to help somebody be their healthiest self. Um, it would be great if we could wake up every morning and go for an hour walk and, sip our tea and like whatever, like that'd be great. But what's realistic? If you're working, like, you can't do that. So yeah, it really looks different for everybody, and we definitely don't need to compare ourselves to anybody but ourselves. And with like eating healthy foods all day, that's another thing that I talk to my patients about all the time. There's no such thing as good or bad foods. First of all foods give us different things in different amounts, and that's what I love to talk about because it helps to really just like improve your relationship with food when you start changing your mentality a little bit around it. Like, yes, of course, there's some foods that are really, they have a ton of vitamin C, or they have antioxidants, they have vitamin A, they have, other foods have protein, other foods have more fiber, other foods have more unsaturated fats, which are great for your heart. But like, no one food is like healthier than the other, right? And then the foods that we deem as unhealthy, I mean, for some people, if you're diabetic, maybe you don't want to be eating a bag full of sugar, but you can still have sugar. We still need sugar in order to function because your brain runs on glucose. So it really is all about understanding what your needs are. There's no good or bad foods, but it's all about what your eating habits look like as a whole for your goals and being consistent with it.
Is there like a common challenge that a lot of clients bring you when it comes to like obstacles in I don't want to say like eating healthy, but reaching their goals?
So I specifically work with patients who want to work on sustainable weight loss, meaning they're tired of the dieting, they want to ditch the diet mentality, they want to heal their relationship with food. They are sick of, doing keto and Atkins and paleo and like all those different things, and they just want to eat the foods that they like and eventually sustainably lose weight for the long term. They don't want to diet ever again. Then I also work with patients who have GI conditions, so mostly IBS, a little bit of GERD, and then also cardiovascular prevention. So, like people who have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, prediabetes, things like that. So, when it comes to the patients who are seeking sustainable weight loss, their main challenge is healing their relationship with food because they've gone through years of dieting and unsuccessful dieting and being fed all these different ideas in our diet culture. So we really need to work to like unpack that and kind of like change their mentality, shift their mentality around food. So that looks different for everybody. It could be that we need to, kind of focus on intuitive eating. And what does that look like? A lot of people don't even know what like feeling hungry or feeling full feels like because they're just thinking about the specific foods that they're eating or the numbers or they're measuring things and they're not really listening to their body. So that's a big one that I work on with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it goes like to the, eating what you think is good in terms of like other people's opinions, which is something I've definitely struggled with. And it's interesting too. It's like now it's holiday season, and I think
Mhm.
you'll hear a lot of like, oh, I'm not going to eat for this amount of time or this many days to make up for, you know, this big meal that I'm gonna have. And, I remember when I used to feel so much anxiety around big meals and holidays because there was just so much emphasis on food. And I was like, because at the time there was a lot of stuff I wasn't eating because of like my health conditions. And then at the same time, I didn't want to, eat too much. And, it's like now when I there's these big holidays coming up, and like, I don't care. Like I'm not even thinking about the food that we're going to eat. I'm just thinking about the time I'm going to spend with people. And I think that comes from just like allowing myself to eat what I want every single day. So like I'm not when it comes to, a holiday, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to eat what I want like I do every single day. But so many people, you know, control every day what they're going to eat because they're trying to reach a certain goal. But really, the goal that everyone really wants to reach is just having a healthy relationship with themselves and like feeling good about themselves. And, if that's like that goal can be reached at every moment, not like, only if I weigh this much or only if I eat these certain things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like really complex, right? Everybody's reasoning, their why behind their goal, is really complex and individual. So, it's okay if you have like a specific, physical goal for, in some situations, right? As long as you have a good relationship with food. That's the first thing that I work on with everybody. If you come to me and you're trying to like change your body completely and you're scared of eating foods, I'm going to be like, why? Why do you want to do that? Like, where is this coming from? And we're going to look, deeper into it. If you have a healthy relationship with food and you're trying to like build muscle, you're trying to run a marathon, you're like, then that's great. Like, let's talk about it and let's work towards it, but not without making sure that our relationship with food is stable first. Um, I mean, with the holidays, I think like first of all, that definitely comes from, that fear of holiday foods. It's probably because, we're restricting those foods on other days of the year, right? Like, what is it about Thanksgiving that's like so special? Of course, we're going to have special foods on holidays, like foods that we don't have all year round. And so, that's great if you want to enjoy them and you want to have them, but like, why are we fearing them? And, it's really important to ask yourself that, like, what is the underlying fear that makes you so afraid to indulge a little bit in foods that you don't eat maybe all year round. Is it that you're restricting yourself and you tell yourself you can't eat those foods on other days? Is it that you like, you know what I mean? Like these are all questions that I kind of ask my patients. And then on the other hand, I feel like we definitely put too much of an emphasis on the food when it comes to holidays. Like, and we make it a big deal, like for Thanksgiving, people will promote like the turkey trots in the morning and like say you have to run 5 miles in the morning so you can burn off all the food that you're going to eat later. It's like, why do you have to do that? You don't have to burn anything. You don't have to earn your food. It's just another meal. Like we have to eat. Everybody has to eat at least 3 times a day, every single day in order to survive, right? So it's like you don't need to earn that. You don't need to burn it off. You don't need to make up for it. Theoretically, it's just one meal a day, right? So even if you eat more indulgently than you normally would, like it's not going to do anything. Nothing's going to change overnight. But yeah, so like also thinking about what's the purpose of this meal? What's the purpose of this holiday? It is, yeah, food's a big part of it, and we do want to enjoy our food, but it's also about spending time with your loved ones and your family. So it's important to honor that too. And like, we don't need to give so much power to food.
Yeah. And I think it's more enjoyable too when, you're not restricting, so you can just appreciate it for what it is and not like
Yeah.
expect it to be something because you were saving up so much for it. I think that's just like the culture in America a lot too, is kind of just like, okay, work, 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 and then play really hard and like restrict and then just go crazy. And
Hmm.
I think something that you kind of realize later on is like it wasn't the going crazy, like wasn't worth it like you thought it'd be. Like it didn't make up for all the time that you lost, like, and all the good things that you were avoiding before. Um,
Totally, totally. I always say that restriction leads to rebellion. If you restrict or you tell yourself you can't have anything, you can't have certain things, or you can't do something, this works for um, any part of our life. Like if you tell yourself you can't do something, you're just going to want to do it more, right? Same goes for food. If you tell yourself you can't have something, you're just going to want it more. And then you're going to end up maybe overeating, when you do have that in front of you because you feel like a lack of control around it. So it never works. Restricting never works. Cheat days never work. Like, what are you cheating on? Right? Like
yeah.
cheating never works in any aspect of our lives. So why do we need to cheat on food? Like, just eat those foods every single day. You'll like get rid of that whole like wow factor if you do, and then you're gonna not eat as much of it anyways. Like if you're, let's say, pumpkin pie, if you're waiting until Thanksgiving to eat pumpkin pie and the rest of the year you tell yourself you can't have it even though you love it, you're just going to want to eat the whole thing on Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you just have it every other day, you're going to be like, okay, it's not a big deal anymore, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I know I think that's so true. Um, is there any advice you would give to people who are struggling with their relationship with food?
Where do I start? I mean, number one, it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault that you feel, confused about what to eat or scared of certain foods or you're struggling. Again, it's because we've been fed these ideas in every aspect of our lives, in the media, in books we read, in, people we follow, TV shows, everything. Um, but it doesn't need to be that way. Whatever your goal is, whether it's weight management, whether it's weight gain, weight loss, whether you have a health condition, all of those things are manageable while still including your favorite foods. No foods are good or bad. Everything is possible as long as we kind of just understand like what your needs are, and we, go back to the science and you kind of learn a little bit about that, learn what makes you feel full and satisfied, learn what foods you really enjoy eating, right? And once you start to understand that and you learn that, it is possible. So I like to say that the only diets that work long term are the ones that you can follow forever, right? So that means that we need to create a nice, healthy, balanced lifestyle, including all of your favorite foods in order for you to see long-term results. So no fat diets.
Yeah, I agree. My dog is leaving me.
Uh-huh.
I think I think too, just realizing too that like nothing's more important how than knowing that like you're mentally okay, and like no body or you know attention or recognition is worth losing yourself or losing your happiness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if your mental health is suffering because of the healthy lifestyle you're trying to follow, that's not healthy, right? At the end of the day, honestly, stress is like the most important factor. I think stress is like the root cause of every single ailment in life. And I think it's true. It's in the research. Stress causes everything bad for us. So you want to avoid stress. And if you're stressed about the foods that you're eating, that doesn't make it healthy, right? So that's yeah, it's really really important to heal your relationship with food to reach ultimate happiness and health.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's like the most rewarding part of your job?
Oh my god, so much. I love it when, I mean, just what you said earlier, just how you feel free to go to your holidays and just enjoy yourself and not feel restriction. You feel food freedom, you feel happiness. Like that makes me so happy as a dietitian when I hear that that my patients don't need me anymore. When they're like, I'm good, like I'm ready to go off and live my life. Like that makes me so happy. That's my favorite, most rewarding feeling.
I think that's very nice of you because you care more about them than keeping them as clients, although I'm sure there's so many people who still need help in that department.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, dietitians do a lot of jobs. You know, we're not like the food police. We don't just like educate people and say you have to do this. Like the majority of my work, I think, is like just being a cheerleader for my patient, right? And just like giving you some support and accountability and telling you that it's okay and like you're doing a good job, right? It's a lot of psychology too, I feel like. And we work on a lot of behavior change too. So, you know, some people like to continue even when they reach their goals, like they like to keep just checking in and having that support. And other people like to have the information and they feel like they can run with it and they feel good to go. And so my work is patient centered. Like I want what's good for you and my patient, and everybody's different. So
yeah, and I think it's just like it's a similar thing with therapy when people feel like, oh, well, I'm not mentally ill. I'm not, you know, so I'm not like suicidal or whatever.
yeah.
So I don't need to go see a therapist. Even if they're struggling, even if there's things they're confused about in life or they feel like they have no direction in life. And I think it's a similar thing with dietitians. Like nobody's like, oh, I'm gonna go see a dietitian. It's not like a normal thing, but it could really save a lot of issues if people just caught on earlier, just as soon as they started, seeing themselves struggling with food or gaining weight and they don't know why, or all
Mhm.
these health conditions. They just, so if it was more normal to see a dietitian right away, and a lot of
Yeah.
dietitians take insurance too. I don't know if people know that. So I think it's
Mm.
it's really so important in your overall health and your overall happiness. And even with depression and anxiety, like the way you eat really can change the way that you feel. um you can't like underestimate the impact of that. So I think it's
Absolutely.
really important in the work you do, and I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you. Aw.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm at Luludi Nutrition. I might have to write that down. It might be difficult for
It's
for
all right.
people to remember, on Instagram. And I work at a private practice called Kulina Health. We're a fully virtual private practice. So all of our sessions happen through Zoom, which is great because you can do it in your car, at work, whenever works for you. And yeah, we do take most major insurances, which is awesome. And we are a team of like over 25 dietitians now, and we each have our own specialties. So, if we get a patient who we feel would be a really good fit for another dietitian on our team, like we're really great about finding the right fit for everybody, because everybody does, every dietitian does kind of have their own coaching style, but we are all science based, so we won't feed you any nonsense. Like we all look at the science.
Yeah, no, that's important too when looking for a dietitian, because there's a lot of like nutritionists out there, and I've seen them myself that kind of feed you BS. So,
Yeah.
is there like, I guess if people are looking for a dietitian, they should look for like a registered dietitian, right? Like,
Yeah, so definitely a registered dietitian, nutritionist is the main, is the top professional of the nutrition field. Like we are the ones who are board certified. We have to go through, over 7 years of school, and we have to do a residency program in various clinical settings and then pass a national board exam to get those credentials. So, registered dietitians are the only type of nutrition professional who can actually provide medical nutrition therapy for health conditions. So, yeah, definitely look for the RD. And then, it's okay to also like give them a call and ask them what their coaching styles are like. Because just like therapy, you want to make sure that you click with somebody, you connect with somebody, and that their coaching style fits what you're looking for and is giving you the support that you need.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else you want to say? I have like one more question, but if there's there
Yeah,
any,
go for it.
okay, it's just I ask everybody if you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
This is something that I actually ask my patients too. I talk a lot about like what would you tell your younger self, but I've never thought about it for myself actually. um, what would I tell myself? I would tell myself that, you know, everything's going to be okay. Is that really cliche? Like everything's going to be okay. And that the struggles that you have, like when you're a kid, you feel like it's the end of the world, and that like, everything is such a big deal. But, as you get older, you realize like what's important in life. So, um, I would also thank myself for wanting to be in nutrition and starting to learn at a young age, because I'm happy with where I'm at now.
Don't think that's cliche at all. It's
I
just
feel like a lot of people say that.
no, but it's a lot of people say it, but when you feel it, you realize how important it actually is. I find that there's a lot of like this cliche advice that you hear so many times and it means nothing to you. And
Right.
one day at like a certain time, you hear it and it's like, oh, now I understand what that means and how important it
Right.
is.
I
So
think it's so important to think about your younger self as like a third person. The way that you talk to yourself about food and about your body, you should be able to talk the same exact way to your younger self or to a sister or your best friend. How would you want somebody to talk to a 5-year-old, right? Would you tell yourself that you are unhappy with your body, or, you can't do this or you can't do that, right? We wouldn't say that to our best friend. I hope not. Or like a 5-year-old, you would
yeah.
say like, you're beautiful, you're amazing. I, love you. I care about you. I want to nourish you. I want to take care of you. That's exactly how you should be talking to yourself about food, about nutrition, about your self care. Kind of just like, from a positive outlook. And thinking that way really helps to start shift your relationship with food and with your overall health, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of us have these complexes where we're either like the best person in the world or the worst person in the world.
Hmm.
And sometimes when you start seeing like there's an image in our heads of ourselves at like the highest level, this kind of unattainable perfect image of ourselves, and then this kind of like horrible disgusting image of ourselves, and we kind of teeter between the two.
Hmm.
And the thing is that when you find that like true like person, your friend in yourself, and you see yourself as the same way you see a friend and whatever, you kind of have to let go of that perfect image.
Mhm.
I think that's really hard, but like if you when you it's worth it if you let go of that and you also let go of this disgusting image and you kind of just see yourself as you really are. um and then you really get to see what's beautiful about you. You get to see what's not great about you too, but accepting that is also just part of the process. And yeah.
Totally, totally. Life is short. Life is too short to be, mad at ourselves and to not be happy with who we are. So, and of course, nobody's perfect. Everybody, wants to improve some things, and that's okay. But like, don't let it take over your life, right? Like we have one life.
And you
So,
don't need to hate yourself or be mad at yourself to
yeah.
improve yourself. And I think that's something kind of we're taught to is just like you can kind of like hate yourself or, force yourself into being better. And it's like you can accept yourself and love yourself as you are and still become better and still improve yourself. Um, and I think once I realized that, it was a lot easier to accept myself. So.
Yeah, it's the only way. It's the only way to move forward. You have to have love and compassion for yourself in order to to bring more positive change to your life.
Well, thank
Definitely.
you so much for your wisdom. And yeah, I really am so grateful for you. So I'm really glad that
Oh,
other people got to hear your story and some of your advice. And I hope you have an amazing holiday.
thank you so much. It was so nice to be here and to see you again. And I hope you do too. I hope I see you soon.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.